Hello, everyone. As you can see right here, we've got the current race. So let's quickly break this down real quick. Current race as it stands, we've got Donald Trump has 120 electoral college votes, and Kamala Harris currently has 99. We're just going to be following this. So a couple of states currently to look out for. We've got swing states, of course. North Carolina, Trump currently leads by about 100,000 votes. Georgia, Trump is currently leading by almost 200,000 votes. Pennsylvania, Kamala Harris is leading by over 300,000 votes. And we've also got Michigan, where Kamala Harris currently has a very slim lead. Now, all of these are not even 50% reporting, aside from Georgia, of course. Georgia is currently 66% reporting. So that's currently what we're looking at. I'm not sure if I'm going to get in big trouble if I actually do watch this right now. But so I'm just not going to. Anyway, it's quite an interesting race to watch, if I'm being honest with you. Georgia, Virginia, which is usually a Democratic stronghold, Trump is currently leading in, although there's about 50% of the vote in, less than that actually. If we take a look here, about 48%. Trump's currently leading. Apparently, someone already called it for Harris, so I'm not really sure what's going on with that. It is very interesting, however, to be looking at all these results. I'm going to risk a lot here by putting this on, but take a look kind of at what people are saying. Let's say MSNBC we have right here. What's up, everyone? Yeah, so then we're doing the governors, all this. MSNBC, as you can see right here, or NBC News, we'll be covering this as well. I'm just going to kind of pause this for now, just kind of going over it. So really the states to be watching are, I guess, Virginia now. It's a lot louder. Okay, right. Just turn it like this. But so Virginia right now, which is kind of weird. I wasn't really like expecting Virginia to end up being something to watch. North Carolina's kind of interesting, I would say. We've got right now how many ballots counted. We've got 74% in Raleigh. Greensboro, they haven't really begun to count. So this could be very interesting. It's currently, as you can see, a pretty slim hold. We've only got 40% in. That's something obviously to watch as we go on. But I don't know. It's a very interesting race. I would say it's certainly a lot different than the race was in, say, 2020. But yeah, if we go here, I've got the volume very low right here. Volume very low here. But yeah, nationwide, this is currently the difference with the popular vote. I don't know. It's a very interesting race so far. They have it at 154.30, I guess. Other places show it more like this. I can refresh pages. I'm not really seeing anything that's like too significant quite yet. Been a long time. It has been a long time. Especially doing something like this. So I'm just gonna pause that real quick. So yeah, Virginia's a very interesting race. I don't know how much everyone's been paying attention to it, but Virginia is an interesting race because this is usually just a solid blue state. And right now, it is not solid blue at all. Donald Trump's currently winning this by 1.5 percentage points. Colorado, currently 5% reporting. We've got Michigan, 10% reporting. We've got Pennsylvania, 17% reporting. Kamala Harris has got that currently by 300,000 votes. We're definitely going to see more of that. as we move forward, Erie County's been counting. Currently, Lehigh has not been counting. This just like, dude, this is something else. Watching this unfold. So this is actually over 200,000 votes at this point, and I would kind of like to look at this. I want to see what's going on in each county, because let's say if Donald Trump were going to win, it would mean that Harris wouldn't be able to make up the ground in the solid blue counties right here, like Augusta. Savannah's not really counting right now. Fulton County over here is 70% in. So I guess it was predicted to be a bit more blue than that, but so they also just called, it looks like, a few states over here for Donald Trump. So it's currently 137 to 99. Once again, we got Michigan, we got PA. It's a very interesting race. That's really all I can say. So far, it is just a very interesting race. It's pretty close right now. We're gonna have to see, I guess, how it pans out. This is a 35,000 vote lead currently for Donald Trump in Virginia. And then if we were to look at some of the other things here, like the Senate race. Senate races right now, nothing too surprising here. It is very close in Ohio. Cruz has a pretty big lead on Allred in Texas. What in the world? Great grandpa's gonna pass away in a couple days. That is not good. Tim Kaine's got a small lead over here. So yeah, the Senate results not quite as interesting, I'm sure, but just as significant, truthfully. But yeah, so I guess what confused me most right now is Virginia, because Virginia's got about 50% counted, and right now Donald Trump is leading, which I admit confuses me, because as far as I knew, this was supposed to be a blue state. Wisconsin should begin counting very soon. I think it should be counting actually right now. It just doesn't look like they are. Rogue, yes, what is your question? What's your question? Kansas, interestingly enough, is currently blue. It should probably end up red. Iowa is very early, got 1% reporting, so it's not really something we can truthfully look at from much of any perspective. But yeah, what's your question? Minnesota, currently 1% reporting. We've got just this one red dot here. Yeah, not much of anything. So yeah, Georgia is very, very red right now. North Carolina is a lot closer, I would say. North Carolina, if we take a look at this race. Say NY Times real quick. The Times election map. There. Okay. Times election map. There we go. Or that's Pennsylvania. Don't know why they're doing Pennsylvania, but let's do that. Okay. See if it shows the entire thing on screen, actually. Is dark red good? So, okay. So here's how this works. Is red is Republican, or the current candidate Donald Trump, and blue is Kamala Harris. So the darker red it is on this map, the darker blue or red it is means that it's a very close race. They haven't called it. On other maps, you might find it that the darker red it is, the less close the race is, I suppose. So I have 100K. Mind if we do me and you playing Call of Duty at 10K, then push Shrek to 20K? I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not really thinking about it very much right now. So let's take a look here. Actually shift from 2020. We're seeing, for the most part, there's been just a red shift from 2020. Just overall, a very big red shift from 2020. There's a few blue dots, but for the most part, it's just a red shift. Live forecast. got Virginia. They still think Virginia is leaning blue. But again, let's take a look at MSNBC. Let's take a look at NBC right now. See what they've got up. They're kind of just leading. They're kind of just doing the exact same thing I am doing right now. Nah, I'm not at 100K, dude. If I was at 100K, I'd be doing something else right now. Gonna refresh the page real quick. This race is about 30K. Very interesting. Let's take a look. CNN. We could check Fox News as well a bit later. Those are like kind of the big three that we're looking at. Yeah, this that looks like the wrong thing from CNN. It's really just anything. Oh, is Arizona reporting now? Let's see. Live. No. Okay. So let's try Fox News. See what Fox News is saying right now. Time crunch for the next 2 years. I'll have to think about it. So here's the current race live. This should be okay for me to watch. Currently, they have it at 178 and 113. That is, I guess, just currently where it stands. I'm going to close the chat. So they have it right here. Here's where it stands. None of these have been called quite yet. Virginia, once again, 33K currently. That's what we're looking at. I'm going to kind of refresh over here. PA is now 20% in. You almost died because you were overworking your body, and the only reason you're still chilling is because your cat jumped on your face and bit your ear. That's just, I don't even know what to say to that. So let's quickly take a look. 177 to 99 right now. Looks like Fox News, apparently, what did they call? They called Colorado, probably. Yeah, it looks like they called Colorado. Take a look at New Hampshire. Hampshire's got a little thing right here. New Hampshire's very interesting looking right now. Alright, New Hampshire does not want to cooperate, so I'll just click New Hampshire over here. New Hampshire, currently Kamala Harris is winning by about 29,000 votes. It's a very small state, doesn't have a lot of electoral college votes. Over here, we got 42% reporting. I am interested in seeing which counties. They have not started counting in Fayetteville. Yeah, I think the state of this race, very interesting so far. 1% reporting over in Wisconsin. Arizona should be around 10 p.m. All of this, I would say it's not really like, there's nothing too unexpected so far. Aside from Virginia, this I do find unexpected, but it also looks like right now Virginia is a 19-point race, so I'm pretty sure Harris is going to end up closing that ground. Which I guess I'm more surprised that she hasn't already. Michigan, we've got 10% of the votes counted. In PA, we got 20% of the votes counted. Harris is up by almost 300,000 votes so far. PA looking very interesting. Erie County, what do we got? Erie County, they've barely started counting. Philadelphia County, they've started counting big time. Same with Montgomery. Franklin County, they've counted 25%. Looks like Fox News has just called something for Donald Trump. We've got 195 to 113. And let's go back over to MSNBC. It's the only one that's actually doing news. Yeah, here we go. So this should be reporting. I just hope there's no ad before it because, yeah, there's an ad. Okay.
There's nothing more powerful.
An ad before it means just gotta get rid of it, gotta get out of there. That is reopen close tab, but yeah, that's the way you get in big trouble. Is an ad. There you go. Okay, so I'm gonna just mute that for now. Okay, so let's take a look at this race right here. Virginia closing pretty rapidly. Yeah, let's see if this is a little bit more updated. 55% in. Virginia closing pretty rapidly in favor of Kamala Harris, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest. Georgia's a very interesting surprise, I would say. It's not all that surprising that it's red. I think the more surprising part is how red Georgia currently is. 2 sentence horror. All political ads is just taking what people said out of context, so you'll vote for whoever's team made the ad. I mean, yeah. You're just gonna say something. Okay, what's up? What's the 2 sentence horror? This currently about 200,000 vote race. Interesting. Very interesting right here. They still haven't really done much in Savannah, so the cities where you're gonna see it be more blue, and then in more rural areas it'll be a lot more red. So let's take a look over in Virginia right now. Virginia, we've got currently 20,000. Separate the two of them. It looks like, where are they counting ballots right now? Could be Norfolk. Could be, honestly, any of these right now. Uncounted estimate. Looks like they're pretty high in a lot of places. So, gonna take a look over here at the House and Senate races. Let's see, where does it say? There's a Senate race. Currently, Ohio is very close race. In Texas, it's not nearly as close. Pennsylvania, also not all that close, but it is pretty consistent with what we're seeing in the presidential election as well. That's a good 2 sentence horror story. I like that. That's a good 2 sentence horror story. But yeah, so in Virginia, it looks like, so here's my guess. What's stream delay? Pretty low. So here's my guess at what's happening. My guess is that mail-in ballots are probably counted second. And since the mail-in ballots are counted second, mail-in ballots usually tend to be more Democrat than Republican, which I think when we start seeing more of the mail-in ballots, we'll get like more of a clear picture. Since at this time, if I remember correctly, at this time 2020, it looked like Donald Trump was just running away with it, and then overnight it switched. Which is why so many people are calling it rigged. It's because they went to bed and they counted more ballots. But yeah, I mean, just nothing I would say that's too surprising yet. Iowa is blue right now, but it's by about 30,000 votes, and we got only about 10%. Missouri is strange. Kansas is very interesting. It's blue right now at 40% reporting. I don't know what's happening with this map. This map just looks strange. See if there's anything over here that we're looking at. Really nothing that... There's really nothing to see here, I would say. Remember when I got you grounded? I didn't get you grounded, dude. Okay, so there's 24,000 votes right now. Uncounted votes. It's a lot of uncounted votes. Uncounted estimate. Let's say uncounted estimate over here. I don't know. I don't really know. I don't really know how that works, to be honest. Michigan, Kamala Harris was a very slight lead, 12% in. The lead's still big. Donald Trump's starting to close ground in Pennsylvania. We're almost a quarter of the way into that race. Kamala Harris closing big ground right now in North Carolina, 50% of the vote in. Honestly, wow, this has been an interesting race. So Donald Trump was leading big time. Kamala Harris is... Sorry, I just clicked Kamala Harris, but Kamala Harris has been closing ground big time North Carolina. Not so much in Georgia, interestingly enough. Georgia is like, pretty solid red right now. How late am I going to do this? Dude, I might stay up all night doing it. It really depends. It really depends. I might stay up all night doing this. Let's take a look at governors. They already called the race over here. So the funny thing about the governor race in North Carolina is it was actually very close. The governor race in North Carolina. And then the Republican candidate, Mark Robinson, they found that he had called himself a Nazi at one point, and he had a bunch of other scandals as well. And that just tanked the race, as you can see. They've already called it for Josh Stein, the Democratic candidate in North Carolina. Yeah, North Carolina is closing big time right now. It's a lot closer than I originally thought it was going to be. Georgia, not really so much. Virginia, once again, it's about 25,000, 53% in. Pennsylvania, definitely closing a lot. Wisconsin, 5% reporting. These two, 5% reporting. Kansas is still 40% in for Kamala Harris right now. Interesting. Missouri as well. Iowa is also close. These are just like a lot of close races. I think, like here, let me... yeah. See, I could just sign out. It would probably be easier to sign out. It'd probably be easier to sign out, but yeah. This, David Pakman, we got Fox News. Fox News, they've currently got this. That's what we're looking at on Fox News. We've also got MSNBC. We probably have CNN as well. They're not really adding anything whatsoever. You kind of actually have to watch it on TV to look at that. But yeah, Texas has obviously been called. Not surprising in the slightest. Vermont's been called. Not surprising in the slightest. This is just not surprising at all. 178 currently for Donald Trump. It looks like they called Nebraska. But it also looks like he won 3 electoral college votes. I'm assuming Kamala Harris will probably take 1 from Nebraska, as that's usually how it goes. The race in North Carolina just got really close. Oh my gosh. Okay, so North Carolina was like big time Trump. And now... Oh, wait, it looks like they just found something because that's not what I was seeing over here. That was 47,000 votes. Now it looks like it's about 100,000. 52% in. This is 49% in. So that's a pretty close race right now. A lot of these are just very close races at the moment, especially because there's just not enough votes in right now to really see where we're going. On the New York Times, I think you were able to do the comparison. So let me reopen close tab, New York Times. So what I want to do is I want to currently see is the shift from 2020. Shift from 2020. I mean, I guess we're kind of just seeing the regular stuff. He won Nebraska, the third district, so there you go. That is a very interesting, that is a quite interesting horror story that you have told, but this is just kind of showing what we already know is happening on MSNBC. NBC News is what I had been looking at. So NBC News appears to be people are actually talking about it, but no, it's just a result board. So just not, I guess, not too much to report right now. These races are going to be a lot different as the night kind of goes on. This has been getting, gosh, that's interesting. As is Kansas, as is Iowa, as is Missouri. This is just not interesting at all over here. This is like 190,000 votes in Georgia. Donald Trump is, I would predict Donald Trump's going to take Georgia. I don't know what that means, Toby, but I would definitely, like, for me personally, I can't make the predictions, but I would predict Donald Trump's going to take Georgia. If I would search up 2020 Georgia election results, hope I spelled that correctly. I don't think I did. Biden won. Let's see. How many votes? What I want to know is how many votes were cast in Georgia. Okay, so about close to 5 million votes in Georgia were cast. So far, we have had. Yeah, we're not there yet. We're about 75% there. So, going to be interesting to see how that pans out. North Carolina, once again, it is pretty close right now. Interesting to listen to in the background. Yeah, basically, that's what it's supposed to be. That's basically what it is supposed to be. She needs to beat Trump by about 3 points. Interesting. I like the way that they give that. I like the way that they give that information. Let's take a look over in Virginia. Virginia has 49,000 votes between these two. She needs to beat him by about 2 points if she wants to catch up there. And then we'll swing over to Pennsylvania and see what they say for Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, I like the 2-sentence horror stories. I just am not reading them out loud right now. Pennsylvania, if Trump wanted to catch up, where did they say it? They're not saying it right now. That's kind of weird. That's kind of weird. I don't know why they say it for one but not the other. But whatever. I'll let it go. I'm not reading them out loud right now, but I am reading them. Pennsylvania, very close, as is Michigan. Georgia's just not all that close. Just really not all that close right now. North Carolina's pretty close, as is Virginia. Iowa, Missouri, Kansas. Kansas is very strange. I wasn't expecting it to be so close. Colorado, New Mexico. At 10 p.m., we're going to start to see... Fine, I'll read it out loud. But at 10 p.m., we're going to start to see like a lot. I would say between 11 and midnight, we'll probably start getting to see the full picture. The Senate, it looks like currently Republicans lead the Senate 46-35. This one is leaning towards the candidate Bob Casey. He is the Democratic candidate. Ohio, it looks like they're going to take that as well. It looks like this as well. So that would be very interesting there. Wow, 2 seats. They already called it, although Osborne is in the lead here. They already called it, though. That's very odd. It looks like Osborne actually currently is the lead there. I don't know why they called it. But yeah, Virginia, I would say, is the biggest surprise for me right now. I thought this was gonna be solid blue by like 5 points, probably 4 or 5 points. Um, so yeah, that's a bit weird. Wow. Maryland, Senate seat in Maryland just went blue. So they've called that, and this race is still very close. Yeah, just honestly, overall, a lot of very close races so far. In the House, 218 for majority. Looking at this, about 100,000 votes there. We've got about 200,000 votes here. 50,000 votes right here. This is 11,000. We got about 40,000, about 20,000. Over in Pennsylvania, we got about 200,000. This is just, it's all really close. Like, it's the type of thing that I've been looking forward to, like, basically all year. I'm looking forward to this just because of how interesting it actually is. When the kidnapper made me guess where he kept my daughter, I went for the basement and he said correct, allowing me to see her. But when I found her severed head, I learned every choice was right. That's a very interesting horror story. Okay, so Virginia, yeah, I was just looking at that. I don't really want to read two-sentence horror stories right now. Kind of a lot more focused on this. Didn't win out your grade. I'm sorry. Popular vote currently 3%. 3 million skewed toward Donald Trump. I'm going to do a couple of page refreshes. We'll get to see if there's anything new. Virginia is still about 40,000 votes towards Donald Trump. This is still about 100,000 votes towards Donald Trump. This is about 200,000 votes towards Donald Trump. This has swung blue now. Kamala Harris has taken the lead in Wisconsin. Missouri, Kamala Harris has a lead. Kansas, Kamala Harris is a very small lead. And Colorado, Kamala Harris is winning pretty big right now. Donald Trump has a very small lead in Minnesota because they've barely begun to count. And for both of these electoral votes, Harris is currently in the lead. Only one of them, I would say, is predicted to be for Harris, but I'm not sure yet. Massachusetts, Kamala Harris has just won. She just wins that because that's how it be. Kind of like in Ohio. Big win for Trump in Ohio, about 12 percentage points. I guess I didn't expect it to be that big. But it seems like the polls were just kind of off, I would say. Just kind of off. I think once some mail-in ballots, I want to take a quick look at something. I want to see, are mail-in ballots counted after the election day ballots? Because if they are, we could see a huge change as soon as they start counting that. Like, if I had to guess, we'd see a huge swing towards Kamala Harris as soon as they start counting the early and mail-in ballots. That's what I'm looking at right now. Yeah, so it looks like they're counted afterwards. I'm not 100% sure, though. Not 100% sure. I'm not really sure how that goes. I don't know. That's just another one I don't know. This right here, we've got currently the Senate. Pretty close races. I don't want to read Two Sentence Horror right now. I apologize. I just really don't want to read it. I'll read this one, then I'll be done, okay? I screamed, ran out of my room, yelled, "Dad, I saw a huge spider. Can you come kill it?" I hope the man standing in my closet didn't notice that I saw him or realize that I was home alone. So, yeah. Lost one seat, it looks like. I don't know where that was, though. I guess it's here. I guess? I don't know. They show the incumbent? I don't think they show the incumbent. That's the Senate results. But yeah, I think at some point, probably later tonight, is where we're going to start seeing a bit of a flip with the votes. So I'm going to check in Virginia. Virginia, Trump's got a lead right now by 1.5 percentage points. But what I want to see... Interesting. So this won't be fully done counting for a little while. It's just a bunch of close races, dude. Close races that we're really not going to fully understand until it's over. Kansas just flipped. That's really not surprising. Iowa, Kamala Harris leads 15% of the vote in. 21% of the vote in. Kamala Harris, small lead in Missouri. New Mexico, currently Trump's got a lead, but that's probably going to change as well. And Colorado, big lead for Harris. Not surprising at all. Once again, Virginia remains really the most surprising kind of place right now. And then over in North Carolina, not quite as close as you might think. She has to beat Trump by about 7 points in the remaining ballot if she wants to catch up and take the lead, it says. Right over here, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Harris leads in all 3 of those. They should have the thing here. Let's see. Nope, nothing really here. Not really a lot to see over there. As you can see, they're kind of just calling stuff over here the same as I am. Which, this has been, I guess, kind of interesting so far to really see this. Now, I don't know how each district is doing here. That's really something that I can only see. That's really something I can only see over here. So in this presidential district, Kamala Harris currently leads, but she's probably going to end up losing that one anyway. No really huge surprises. We still got only 58% of the votes counted over here. We got 61% of the votes counted over in North Carolina. Georgia, we've got 77% of the votes counted. PA, we've got a grand total of 32% of the votes counted. These aren't like huge numbers that we're seeing. We got 1% of the votes counted currently in Minnesota, 22% in Wisconsin, and 13% only in Michigan. In Maine, this is, yeah, they're just not counting. They're just really not even counting in Maine right now. So nothing has really changed, I would say. The House, interesting. The House is very interesting. Republicans currently up by 30. The Senate currently up by 10. Now, this would also, all of these looks like that will also determine the Senate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 over here. Ohio, not quite as close as you might think. Colin Allred getting beaten pretty badly over in Texas. In Maine, it's still 3% reporting because no one cares about Maine whatsoever. Maine just literally doesn't matter. I'm still wondering why Virginia is red. That, I guess, like, that's what I'm wondering. I didn't think it was going to be red. That would surprise me big time. All of these right here. I mean, Virginia would basically, if Donald Trump can win Virginia, he'll basically lock up the presidency, I would say. Which, again, that would shock me big time. In Florida, not even close. Not even remotely close. But that was to be expected. We haven't seen, like I said, a ton. I know I sound like a broken record at this point. Really haven't seen a ton of unexpected results, I would say. Only Virginia is the one that is surprising me a lot. In North Carolina, it was... hello... No, Louian. In North Carolina, this was, I guess, approximately what it was also looking like in 2020 as well. Kamala Harris, just her chances of victory getting a lot slimmer as the night goes on, I would say, just overall, because of these numbers that we're seeing. One of the closest races you'll ever see right now in Missouri. Look at that. You got about 130 votes separating the two of them. Missouri will go to Donald Trump. It will. That's the way it always goes. And Iowa is close right now, interestingly enough. Pennsylvania, how much reporting in Pennsylvania? We've got 33% of the votes counted so far. Kamala Harris is up by almost 100,000 votes. Let's see. 22% of the votes in only in Philadelphia. Interesting. That one, if I had to predict, it looks like PA will probably go for Harris, but I'm not sure yet. That would just be my very, very early prediction. Michigan, really, really too early to say. Pennsylvania is actually counting votes a lot faster than I thought they were going to count votes. What I'm looking for is over here, let's say. In, let's say, Lackawanna. Lackawanna, they got 94% of the votes currently counted. Kamala Harris has about a 5% victory in Lackawanna right now. In Erie County, they've got 2% of the votes counted. I don't know why. Only 22% of the votes currently counted in Philadelphia County, 22% in Montgomery, 57% in Allegheny, and then Delaware County only 17%. So, Missouri just flipped, unsurprising. What I'm seeing right now is Pennsylvania just appears more blue right now. But I don't know. I really don't know. So Trump is still leading in Virginia, which, again, that surprises me big time. That's really surprising to me that he would be winning in Virginia right now. This is supposed to be basically a solid blue state. It's about 60% reporting right now. So it's certainly close enough that I would not call it. I might call Georgia, though. Georgia, I would probably call for Donald Trump at this point. I mean, he's up by about 200,000 votes. If we take a look over here, she'd probably have to outpace him by about 10 to 15%. Yeah. Okay, 19%. Like 19%. 5-point lead right here. If we take a look at the polls, so this pre-election polling. We have pre-election polling right here. Florida was 6.2 for Trump. Florida ended up not being 6.2 for Trump. Florida ended up being 14 points, almost 14 points in the direction of Trump. So that's already, poll got it really, really wrong. Let's see. Nationally, currently Donald Trump, I believe, has the popular vote. It's not by much, however, which just, it's not very surprising as of right now, just because of California. But let's take a look over here. What other states do we got? So we got Harris by 16 over in New Jersey. And let's see what New Jersey currently has. New Jersey's currently only up by 7 points. So as you can see right now, it looks like the polls are getting it wrong in the direction of Kamala Harris, meaning that they are underestimating Donald Trump right now. That's what it looks like. I'm not sure, but that is what it looks like. North Carolina, as you can see, 1.3 points. They have Georgia. Where's Georgia? Georgia, 1.2 points for Donald Trump. He's currently leading by 5 points. Who am I rooting for? I won't be saying that just because I don't want to, create any sort of controversy. But I'm sure that if you've watched some of my streams, then you probably know who I am rooting for. But yeah, currently, popular vote looks like it's about 4-ish million towards Donald Trump. Popular vote will be, I guess, interesting to watch. It doesn't actually really matter. No cursing, please. Pennsylvania, still pretty sizable lead for Kamala Harris. Oh, sorry, for Bob Casey, that's the Senate. Pennsylvania, pretty sizable lead for Kamala Harris. Virginia, still 59% reporting. Yeah, you can probably guess. North Carolina, Trump's got it by almost 5% right now. That's a bit surprising to me. Michigan, Wisconsin, super close. Wisconsin's just super close. Let's see. New Hampshire. New Hampshire was polling at about 5% for Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris has got it by about 8% right now, so that's something that looks like it was skewed towards Donald Trump. I think the polling just so far has gotten it really wrong just for everything. Let's see. About 8% in Ohio. If I had to guess, is going to be about 10. Actually, it's right around 8. Yeah, it's right around 8 right now. That's a pretty good call. Texas, it's also about 8%. Let's see what they had Texas at. Probably about 7 if I had to guess. Yeah, 7.4. So pretty decent call right there. So far, they had Harris up 5 there. I'm kind of just looking at the direction things are really going. So let's say here, Kamala Harris is winning this district with 73% of the votes in, so that will probably go to her. In Maine, they've counted 5% of the votes in one district. Oh my gosh, 5% of the votes. That's crazy. But we're about to see polls closing over here. And that's going to be very interesting to see. Arizona, Utah, Nevada, and Montana. Arizona and Nevada, both of them are swing states. That could decide the election. Now, interestingly enough, Kamala Harris is still winning in Iowa. Currently winning by about 6%. Now, we are only 22% of the way in votes-wise. So that will probably end up flipping. I would be surprised if it did not flip. In Virginia, it's still about 50,000 votes. Kamala Harris really not making up all that many votes in Virginia, which is still shocking to me. I'm still surprised about that. But that's basically the only surprise of the night so far. Who do you think I'm rooting for? I'm not sure. Probably Donald Trump. I don't know. Yeah, we've got hours left of this. We have hours and hours left of this. Like, look at this over here. 19% of the vote in. Running for Kamala Harris. Okay. We got 90% of the vote in. Harris still leads in PA, although Trump is making up ground. If you had to guess, you would say I voted blue. Okay. Like I said, I won't be saying it. But your guesses are obviously based on things you've seen. So, 191 to 81. It looks like they just called probably North Dakota, South Dakota, something like that. Wyoming, it might be. Yeah, Wyoming, they just called it already just because they know how Wyoming swings. Iowa, 23% of the vote in. Trump is starting to make up ground in Iowa. Not surprising. In Kansas, is actually really close. I am shocked at how close it is in Kansas right now. Trump is winning by 20,000 votes with 50% of the vote in. That is shocking to me. I thought he was going to be up by way more than that. North Carolina, he's got it by nearly 200,000 votes. You want Jill Stein to win. Well, I have bad news for you. But, yeah, he's got about 200,000 votes right now. So Kamala Harris is having a lot of trouble in North Carolina. Interestingly, I thought North Carolina could end up going blue. But it does not appear to be doing anything close to that right now. Now, this is somewhat early on. That's 65% of the vote in. So it's a bit different when it's 65% of the vote in. That's when you can kind of start getting the feel. Georgia, I would call it. I don't know why they haven't called it. I'm calling Georgia for Donald Trump right now. That would bring him up to 204 electoral college votes. I just don't see in any way Georgia flipping at this point. 200,000 votes with 20% of the vote to go. Unless it's like all city votes, I just don't see it happening. She'd have to win 20 points in the remaining ballots. So unless it's like all city votes, which right here, not so surprising numbers. Savannah still has a lot of votes to count. It looks like, yeah, so far it's like, how many votes do we really have to count? Just most of the votes are already counted. Wisconsin just flipped over to red. This by about 100 votes. However, Wisconsin, we still only got about 30% in, so not really a big deal, I would say. Not really like a huge deal over here. Minnesota, 1% reporting. Again, not really a huge deal. And then over, let's check the Senate map real quick. Senate map, we've got Bob Casey still in the lead by almost 100,000 votes right now. Tim Kaine in the lead by about 60,000 votes right now in Virginia. There's a very close Senate race currently in Missouri. The one in Texas is not very close at all. Allred looks like he's getting beaten pretty bad right now, but it, again, depends on where these final votes are going to be coming from. They've already called the Nebraska race, which I find kind of interesting, because Osborne, I find it interesting if they already called that. But yeah, Kansas is slowly getting less close, which is what I expected the whole time. I was shocked that it was as close as it was to begin with. If I donated right now, would you steal me out? No, I would not. Iowa, still about 20,000 votes separating them. Kamala Harris, gonna win Colorado. I'm surprised they haven't called that yet. Pennsylvania, like I said, still very close. I I don't know why they don't count the votes in D.C. D.C. will be blue. Donald Trump right now looking pretty good on his way to becoming the next president. Right now it looks like he is on his way, but you're going to just have to see how the next few hours pan out. Virginia, he's still got about 50,000 vote lead. North Carolina, he's just kind of running away with that one. Now, an interesting thing, I don't know if it's true or not, but to me, I'm thinking that it's possible that basically whoever's in the lead in the polling is going to end up getting a bigger win in that state than was like expected in the polling. Like this one currently 13 percentage points. She was up by 10 in the polling. That seems to be like basically the general gist of what's happening right now. But like I can't be sure. House race currently GOP has 111. We're going to look over here. We've got Ryan McKenzie beating Susan Wild over in District 7. We've got Janelle Stelson beating Scott Perry over in District 10. This, again, is all very early right here in PA, about 40% in. That's for the House. This is for the Senate. Senate, pretty close races basically everywhere, I would say. Basically everywhere. Really, the race that was the least close, I would say, was the governor race over here in North Carolina. I mean, that wasn't close at all. We're not seeing like a ton of new numbers. Virginia is getting to the point where I think about 50,000 votes separate them. It's not like a huge thing, but it is an interesting thing to look at. 2% of the votes currently in Minnesota. 35% reporting in Wisconsin. And Maine looking also pretty interesting. Maine over here, they've got 5% of the votes in Maine. I'm proud of Maine. They're finally counting votes. Pretty big win for Harris in New York. Really just not surprising in the slightest. How is she polling in New York, actually? I'd love to know how she was polling in New York. Did they even poll in New York, or are they just like, nah, we don't need to talk about this? I want to see how she's polling in New York because, yeah, so she was polling ahead by about 17. She's winning it by 21. So really, it looks like PA just flipped. PA just flipped over to red, but really, what it's looking like, Michigan's also going to end up flipping, and then we'll have to see how it pans out later in the night. But yeah, 24 points over in Maryland. It kind of is looking like whoever was ahead in the polling average ends up so far to be ahead, like by far. Way more than originally anticipated. Arizona has begun to count. Currently, Donald Trump is in the lead pretty big, but it's 4% of the vote in, so it's really not such a big deal right now. But I would say right now it's not looking good for Democrats. Iowa, unsurprising, but yeah, it's really not looking good for Democrats right now. Although at this point in the 2020 election, I'm going to once again bring up the New York Times. Election map, I would say. Election map. Let's do that. Super close race right here. Erie County is slightly red right now. It's something to watch out for. But yeah, we got 66% in Virginia, 67% over in North Carolina. I would like to see shift from 2020 right now. So it just seems like almost all of it is a red shift. Like it seems like Republicans really showed up and started voting this year. That's what it looks like. Right now, though, there's a shift from 2020, but this is also, I think, probably, yeah, this is like compared to the outcome. This is their current prediction is that Trump would win. They currently have it at 288 to 250, but we're gonna really have to see there. Toss up, toss up, toss up. North Carolina, I mean, Trump +5. Georgia, Trump +5. Michigan, currently Harris +3. Pennsylvania, she's got a little bit of a lead. Wisconsin, Trump's got a very slight lead. It's like, all this stuff. Margin by county. Live forecast. I'm still not sure why they have Virginia like this right now. I don't really know. They probably just know something I don't. And Pennsylvania flipped right back over to blue. Pennsylvania went right back over to blue. So they're counting in a lot of places right now. Philly County's only 36% of the way in. It's going to be mostly blue. Erie County is what? Erie County is 2% of the votes in. Allegheny 66. Lackawanna 98. That's a very close county right there. And then Lehigh, also pretty close, I'd say. 40% of the vote in. Northampton, we got Montgomery. Pennsylvania is a very big battleground state here in this particular election. They've got 201 to 81. It seems like they haven't called at least one of these states for Harris yet. North Carolina is really getting away from Harris. I mean, like really big time getting away from Harris. Election results. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. I'm sorry. Yeah, so we're going back over here. I'm checking out stuff like this to kind of like get a gist of how the polls are going, I would say. It's all very close races, especially Pennsylvania, especially Michigan right now, especially Virginia. These were all very close in 2020 as well. But yeah, it's looking, I guess, different than I'd expected now. Interestingly, Arizona is very close right now. Arizona's very close right now. Wow. Pennsylvania flips back over to Donald Trump. That's going to be flipping all night, I would say. How's Hero Brian doing on the votes? Better than you might expect. But Iowa, unsurprising over here. Kamala Harris, big win over in Colorado. These are not yet reporting. I'm not sure when they will be reporting. Oregon got 0% of the votes in technically. So what I'm looking at right here is just Harris is kind of cutting down the lead a little bit in North Carolina. But as you can see right here, she'd have to beat Donald Trump by 10 points in the remaining ballots, which is probably somewhat close to 1 million. If I had to guess, it's probably somewhere close to 1 million ballots at this point. And that just doesn't seem very likely. So if we were looking, let's say, at Pennsylvania. If we're looking, let's say, at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, super close right now. Donald Trump's got a small lead in Pennsylvania. We saw that last election as well, and it did not pan out for him. A state was just called for Kamala Harris. It is Colorado. Not surprising at all. Got 198 to 109 right now. As soon as counting begins in California, then Kamala Harris will have California as well. Our country's so peachy, true. I'm still trying to figure out what's happening in Virginia. Oh, so Kamala Harris is currently only down 27,000 votes for Virginia. She just cut that in half, basically. So it seems like wherever the votes are currently being counted in Virginia. Oh, okay. So in Richmond right now, only 18% of the votes have currently been counted. And Richmond's going to be heavy blue. So that's probably why Virginia is currently red. That's probably why Virginia is currently red. Over here, North Carolina. Georgia, we just aren't really seeing much of a change. At a certain point, Donald Trump just took a big lead in Georgia, and he hasn't really given it back. The only way Harris would win in Georgia, she'd have to win by about 22, 23 points in the remaining ballots, which is 19% of the ballots. 19% of the original 100% of the ballots. It's just not looking good for Kamala Harris in Georgia right now. Pennsylvania, of course, a lot different just because it's only 50% reporting. I want to see something. When did states flip in 2020? I think that'll actually... So I think this is actually going to give a much better idea of what happened. When did states start flipping? So over here, we've got Harris up by 15K over there. She's probably going to get that one electoral college vote over in Nebraska. In Maine, they still have only counted 5% of the vote, so we don't care about Maine. So I want to know, how did this happen? How did it happen? I want to see when states flipped, you know? When did states flip in the 2020 race? I mean, that's really what I'm looking at right now. I want to see, like, when it happened. Because I remember 76% in, Trump was winning, I believe, in Pennsylvania in 2020. Our country's falling apart. I agree. Trump currently holds a slim lead in Pennsylvania, but again, there's just a lot of votes to be counted right now. Erie County, 32% of the votes in. Lackawanna, we got 98% in. I'd say Trump definitely did better in Lackawanna, I believe, than he did last time. But Philly County's got a ton currently to count. So Philly County's really what you're going to be looking at when you're looking at Pennsylvania. The House, Democrats kind of catching up in the House. The Senate's not looking good for the Democrats. What changed here? Was it Wisconsin? So it's Wisconsin, but that's currently... Or it's New Mexico as well. Arizona, Kerry Lake's probably going to get crushed. Arizona is very close right now. They've got 38% of the vote in. Michigan, Harris still holds a slim lead with about 20% in. Wisconsin just flipped back over to Harris after being for Trump. Over here, another 30,000 vote lead for Donald Trump. in Virginia, but again, we've got so many of the ballots to still count. And one of those is in Richmond. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong county. I was looking at the wrong county. Richmond, we got 82% of the ballots to count, so I'm guessing Harris probably takes the lead there, probably by about 5%. So Arizona just flipped 48% in. Arizona just flipped towards Harris. Now that's an interesting one. North Carolina, I mean, Donald Trump's just running away with North Carolina at this point. He's got it by 5.5 points. Georgia, he's only got by 4.5. So North Carolina is way more red. And then both of these. Why were people voting for Trump? Honestly, throughout this entire election cycle, I have not seen any really positive ads about either candidate. It's mainly just been negative ads. And I gotta admit, I don't know why. It's been like only negative ads. 46% reporting. They're calling it for Pete Ricketts over Dan Osborne right now. Or no, Dan Osborne looks like he's gonna beat Deb Fischer, but they called it for Pete Ricketts over Preston Love. Okay, that makes sense. Trump became the new Mr. Beast. That's interesting. Pretty soon. Yeah, so Arizona is currently blue. Now, here's a very interesting scenario. Firstly, Kamala Harris, if she wants to win the election, must win Virginia. I mean, this is a state she should easily carry. She should easily be carrying Virginia. As it stands right now, we got 65% of the votes in. I would say if you're Kamala Harris, you're probably not that worried about Virginia. Pennsylvania, Trump's got a bit of a lead, but it's also not really surprising. Kind of looking at that, kind of expecting that, I would say, at this time of night, especially when Philly County's got so many to count. We got Erie County's got a lot to count. We've got Lehigh County's got a lot to count. Dauphin County, York County, we got Delaware County, all that stuff. There's just a lot to count right now. Yeah, no, you can't really trust anyone when they tell you, how to vote. You can't really just trust people on it. You got to do your own research. See, so Virginia is still for Harris right now. Arizona is still for Harris right now. Wisconsin is flip-flopping. Really not that surprising. So yeah, Georgia and North Carolina. North Carolina, I was expecting Harris to be a lot better in North Carolina than she currently is. I was not expecting it to be like that. This is very odd. This is very odd the way things are like turning out. Slim lead here. Trump up by almost 100,000 votes in Pennsylvania. About 50% counted right now. Let's see. About 50% counted in Arizona as well. We've got these 4 states will start counting at midnight Eastern time. 11 p.m. Eastern time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this on right here. And I will be back in a few minutes. See if anything has changed. Talking to a family member about how the election was going earlier. Texas, yeah, I mean, Texas is not, it was not close. Trump carried Texas by about 13%. So let's see if anything has changed. We're going to do a quick refresh over here. It really doesn't, well, Trump's got 207 now, so they must have called something for him. What did they call? They called, it looks like Missouri and Utah. That makes sense, I would say. It makes sense. And that'll bring him to 207. So what Donald Trump is looking for right here is winning Georgia, North Carolina, and if he can somehow win Virginia, then all he'd really need was PA. Even at this point, if he won Georgia, North Carolina, I think if he just took PA, he would not actually have enough. It would not quite be enough. But all of these as well, like these two, this over here, Wisconsin super close, Michigan super close, Pennsylvania also close, North Carolina just not that close, Virginia not really tightening up much at all, Georgia and Virginia has flipped blue for the first time all night. So Virginia is finally blue. I think anyone rooting for Kamala Harris to win, or anyone who voted for Kamala Harris to win, breathing a huge sigh of relief with Virginia. Virginia finally flips. It was expected. It was not guaranteed. It was certainly expected. But with Virginia, all Harris has to do is carry PA, Michigan, Wisconsin. She wins 270 to 268. That's all she has to do. So if she can do that, she would win the presidency. This is super close right here. All of this super close. Donald Trump currently up in Pennsylvania. I'm not surprised at all by this. I was expecting Trump to be up for a long time here in Pennsylvania. I'm surprised actually that it only flipped just now. Or it flipped not too long ago. But I also think that this is going to kind of be flip-flopping around all night. So you can see the uncounted estimate. Philly County's got a lot of votes to count. Currently, Erie County's 32% of the way done. Kamala Harris carrying Erie County pretty heavily. Lackawanna, Kamala Harris only wins it by about 3%, which is down from Biden. I believe he went by 5% in 2020. But, I mean, the state of the race is very close. It's a very close race. That's what I would say. This is super close. Arizona is still for Kamala Harris. About 50% of the way there. She's up by 16,000 votes. That's really close. That is really, really close right now. What I'm trying to figure out is, obviously New Mexico is expected to go for Kamala Harris. Iowa is actually somewhat close, but I expect it to go for Donald Trump. I would say, again, PA, Michigan, and Wisconsin. That's what we're watching. These 3 states would decide the election right here. 3 states right there that would decide the election. And I think they will end up deciding the election. Is Trump winning in general? Currently, Donald Trump is winning in general. If we're talking about Electoral College, he's currently up 198 to 112. That will change as these states over here start their count, because Because in California will be called for Harris immediately. Washington also likely will be as well. For a moment, I thought they had been counting in Oregon, but I suppose not. Yeah, at this point, Virginia is going to go for Harris. It was expected all night. I guess I'm. Oh. Now that's getting interesting. So, Georgia, Kamala Harris is making up big ground. That's very interesting. Kamala Harris is making up big ground. It's only at 150,000. I don't know if it's going to be enough to win Georgia. But Harris is making up big ground right now. She was down by 5%. She's now down by 3% in Georgia. And in North Carolina, it seems like the later ballots that they count. North Carolina, Trump's up by 6%. But here's the thing. The later ballots seem to be more for Harris. Like Charlotte, Mecklenburg. Interesting. Very interesting the way that's breaking. Very interesting. Trump's up by a bit in Wisconsin. Michigan. Harris is still up by a little bit. Trump up what looks like big in PA, but I don't really think it's very big in PA. Just because of the way PA turned out last time. I remember how PA went last time. That was super close all the way through. But interesting that Georgia is slowly getting closer. Even more interesting is Georgia, the turnout. The election results in Georgia. The turnout looks like it's going to be way higher this year. Look at this. Sorry, that's a Senate runoff. But look at this. 2.4 million to 2.4 million. That's 100% of the vote. We've got 88% in. 2.4 million to 2.28 million. We've got a higher turnout. Virginia, unsurprisingly, Kamala Harris will carry that. And let's see, North Carolina. I want to see North Carolina. America's Choice 2020. This is Georgia, or 270. Looks like CNN's probably going to have their own interactive map here. All this, they're just calling states at the start, but it is kind of nonsense right here. What I'm looking for is 2020 results. That's Georgia. So what I want is North Carolina. It'll probably have the underscore. No, so it won't have the underscore. Interesting. Let's go North Carolina. Okay, how about just North Carolina? North Carolina, there you go. Interesting looking here. North Carolina was 2.7 to 2.6. Trump barely won North Carolina in 2020. He's winning by a much bigger margin right now. But something tells me that margin's going to get a lot tighter as the night goes on. In Georgia, that margin is getting tighter right now. It's at 3%. It was at 5%. Over here in Arizona, super close as well. Pennsylvania, about where I expected it to be at the moment. Michigan, also about where I expected it to be. Because here's the thing about Michigan. I think North Carolina is going to have approximately the same turnout, but I can't be sure. So here's what happened in Pennsylvania. Let's do that. If I can spell. So in Pennsylvania, 2020, Biden ends up winning Pennsylvania by a percentage point. What happened was, throughout the night, there were just more and more ballots found. And most of them ended up favoring Biden because they were mail-in ballots. That's what happened in 2020. The mail-in ballots seem to favor Democrat. I'm not sure how it'll look this time, however. Like, let's say over here, 61% But over in Wayne County, 1% of the vote is currently counted in Wayne County. 1% of the vote. Right here. That's where Detroit is. Detroit's going to be a heavy Democrat hitter. Like, that's going to be probably at least 70% for Kamala Harris. So if she wants to win Michigan, Wayne County's really got to show up. But yeah, in Pennsylvania, Harris won Allegheny by, Biden won Allegheny by 20 points. Let's take a quick look at what's happening in Allegheny right now. There's a good thing to look for if you're trying to determine the winner. In Allegheny, Harris is taking this currently by 22 points. That's up from 2020. That's a good margin for her. She's currently got Philadelphia County by 58 points. Biden carried it. Sorry, here it is. Biden carried it by 64, however. So that's different. Delaware County, Biden carried by about 36. Harris has about 38 right now. So these are the counties really decided. So Erie County right now is for Harris. Erie County went Biden in 20. He won it by 2,000 votes. It was 1%. So let's go back over here. So if we take a look in PA, over here, Kamala Harris has Erie County currently by about 18%. But because of the fact that they've only got about a third of their ballots counted, that could easily change. North Carolina, just not very close. Georgia, we haven't gotten an update there. Arizona flips back to Trump, not surprising. It's going to be flip-flopping all night. We've got a very tight race in Wisconsin. We got a very tight race, obviously, in Pennsylvania. A very tight race in Michigan. Virginia is way tighter than I thought it would be, but it's probably not going to end up being that tight. Maine is about where everyone expected. Iowa is about where everyone, aside from that one poll, expected. Interestingly enough, Nebraska, very close here. Harris probably carries this county or this district. That's what everyone was expecting. Wisconsin over here. We've got Minnesota. Minnesota, Trump is currently carrying, but we got 4% of the vote in Minnesota. It seems like they're not just slow counters. We've got the snails over there. Now, interestingly enough, the Senate race, the Republicans are really coming in heavy hitting. McCormick's currently beating Casey. That makes sense, as Trump is also currently beating Harris in Pennsylvania. If it flips, I'm assuming the Senate will also flip back blue. Michigan currently blue. Tammy Baldwin currently winning just slightly, which is very interesting to me that Tammy Baldwin is winning currently in Wisconsin. If we're looking at the Senate, let me click on the Senate and see what they say. Yeah, so very slight for Tammy Baldwin, Wisconsin. That interests me a little bit because Trump is currently winning in Wisconsin. So the Republican candidate for president's winning in Wisconsin, but the Democratic candidate for Senate is winning in Wisconsin. That's very interesting to me. It kind of gives you an idea of how people are voting right now. I think what it might tell you might be that either you have Republican voters voting for the Democratic Senate candidate, which would be quite intriguing, or it means that you have people that just don't like Harris. They are Democrats but don't like Harris, so they're voting Republican for Trump, but everything else they're going blue, which that's another option. That's something we could be seeing. Georgia has kind of stopped counting. We've got 88% of the vote in. I would say it's quite unlikely that Harris wins Georgia, but it's a lot closer than it used to be. And we still got Savannah. We got Chatham County. We've got Richmond County. We've got, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. I think someone from Georgia would kill me. Gwinnett, not carrying as much as Biden did. Fairly certain, at least. Go over here. Now we do, oh, okay. I still can't spell. So let's quickly refresh that. And let's do Georgia. Georgia, Gwinnett County, that's what we're going to be looking at. DeKalb, honestly, not surprising. Clayton, not surprising. What I want to look at is, let's see, Gwinnett, Biden carried by 18. Right now, it looks like Harris is carrying Gwinnett by actually about the same margin. In Fulton County, Harris is currently about plus 44. Biden carried Fulton by right around that margin, about 46. Then we got Henry. Then we got Rockdale. It's very interesting to see that. I guess I understand why they have not yet called Georgia. North Carolina, they'll probably call soon. North Carolina looks like it should be called soon. Although very suddenly, oh my gosh, very suddenly, North Carolina is close. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we just got a ton of ballots in for Kamala Harris. She was down by about 6 percentage points. She's now down by 2.5. 84% in. Oh my goodness. That's gotten really close. And that's what I think we're going to be seeing in every swing state, by the way. I think we're going to see it start off blue. It's going to change to red. And then sometime late in the voting, in the count, it's going to be somewhere around 80%, 75%, 80%. Those ballots are starting to be a lot more blue. And I think that's why Pennsylvania right now, Trump's going to want to have a lead by about 200,000. Right now he doesn't. And I think if we see that same trend, right now Harris would win Pennsylvania if that trend continues. Michigan, Harris would probably also carry, although it's very early in Michigan's count. Wisconsin, it would be the same thing. These are all very close. And the fact that they're tightening is extremely interesting to me because that means the late votes could be heavily Democratic. That could easily determine the presidency. At this point, New Hampshire basically called for Harris. They haven't called it yet, but at this point, New Hampshire basically called for Harris. Not surprising. Virginia, Harris leads by 18,000. About what you were expecting the whole time. But yeah, these small things that you notice right here. Suddenly, North Carolina is not so out of reach for Kamala Harris. Suddenly, North Carolina is not so out of reach for Kamala Harris. Suddenly, all of this is looking like it's not quite so out of reach for Kamala Harris. That's very interesting the way this is swinging. And let's clap for Minnesota. They've got 4% of the vote in. Great stuff there from Minnesota. Really proud of them. It's 28 minutes before we get West Coast ballots in. Michigan just flipped to red. Again, doesn't surprise me. This is what is just so interesting to me. Is the final votes are really what will decide everything here. The final votes are what's gonna decide everything here. And it seems to be the trend is the later it gets, the more blue the ballots are. So that could be early voting. It could be just where they're counting. But that's a huge swing right there. That's a huge swing. That's about 100,000 votes in the direction of Kamala Harris in North Carolina. That's about same thing in Georgia. That's very interesting. Arizona might very well flip again. Trump leads by 1,000 with 50% in. Currently, we're seeing, as we saw in 2020, we're seeing that Trump holds almost every swing state, right? Trump holds the swing states. We saw that in 2020. He was leading, I think, every swing state in 2020, aside from maybe one or two. And then, remember, as it got later and they found more ballots, and they got the mail-in ballots, and they got the early ballots, that's when it started swinging blue. I think we're going to see that this time as well. I don't know if it will be enough to swing the vote fully in the direction of Kamala Harris, but I think it definitely will tighten these races big time. We're probably going to see the same thing over here. Not in Florida. No, not in Florida, but I think probably in the swing states it's going to look like that. Florida is just different. Florida is a different breed. I'm going to refresh this and make sure that we're getting all the latest things over here. We've got NBC calling stuff here. This is where it's starting to get a lot more interesting. This is where it's starting to get a lot more interesting, I'll tell you that. So you can see nationwide, Trump has the lead in the national vote. I think really the early like results have a lot of people panic, and we're still yet to see what's going to happen. As you can see, Virginia, Harris was down in Virginia for most of the night, and Harris has Virginia now, as she was expected to. Donald Trump was a very slight lead, about 1.5% in Wisconsin, about 0.6% in Michigan, and we've got right around 2.8% in Pennsylvania. And then it's tied in percentage in Arizona. Georgia, it looks like Trump just took a slightly bigger lead in Georgia. Very, very slight, but it is there. So it's very interesting what I'm seeing here in North Carolina. Just because when we were about 30 minutes ago, Trump had the 6% lead, now it's 2.5. If something like that happens again, we could very well see North Carolina flipping blue. As it stands right now, if Donald Trump carried every state he's currently leading in, obviously he would win the election in a landslide, but I also doubt that's going to happen. Very heavily doubt that that's going to happen. We're not really seeing like huge changes in numbers right now. It looks like they're just still counting ballots. So we're going to just check over here. They have the live feed, and in all honesty, I think this is just, again, extremely close. I don't know who's going to end up coming out on top. I really do not. This is crazy. This is crazy so far. Trump at 210, Harris at 112. This is just crazy stuff so far. If we see another swing towards Harris, let's say North Carolina, it could very well flip. Same with Georgia. Georgia, less so, but still possible. Michigan, PA. Trump's starting to open up that lead that he would love to have, because once it gets to about 75%, that's probably where it flips back to Harris ballots. These seem to be more rural ballots. We're going to check in on PA, see how Erie County's doing, because Erie County usually votes with the winner. Erie County's still blue. They have not been counting ballots in Erie County. 56% reported in Philadelphia County. Lehigh, we got Bucks, Montgomery, Chester, Delaware, Allegheny. Allegheny Harris that's 21 points. Interesting. 21 points for Harris. 21 points in percentage points for Harris in Allegheny right now. Biden only won it by about 20. So it's right around Biden. Slightly above, but it's right around Biden. we could see something just like that. This is a very close race. This race is so close. This is wow. The Senate and the House as well. We're probably going to see a pretty similar flip. In the Senate currently holding Tammy Baldwin. We got Alyssa Slotkin versus Mike Rogers. Currently McCormick's beating Casey. We have called the race here in New Mexico. Arizona, Kari Lake is just being beaten soundly. All red is being hit hard in Texas, but we could see that change as well. It has not yet been called. And then in Ohio, the Senate race is actually close because if we see that same thing that we saw over in North Carolina with the ballots, it could be the same sort of result. Definitely going to have to watch that. And then over here, Osborne looks like he might take it from Fisher. They have not yet called that. That'll be very interesting to watch as well. But we're kind of seeing a very predictable trend. It's a very predictable trend. Starts blue. It flips red. The later it gets, the more blue it gets. I don't know if it's going to be enough to flip red. But if it's going to be enough to flip back to blue. But if it is, I wouldn't be surprised, is what I'd say. I would not be surprised. So I'm going to leave it here. Take a look at what's going on. They'll show you everything happening over across all of the elections. And I'll go radio silent for a moment. All right, let's check the state of the race real quick. Gonna refresh everything right here. And currently 140,000 votes separate Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in Georgia. I don't think Harris is going to be able to make up that ground, but at the same time, I'm not going to count her out of it. It is very early. So in Georgia, we got 90% in. Over here, this is a lot closer. We got 120 to go. Harris does have a path to victory here. Down 2.7% in North Carolina. It's tightened quite a lot. That's kind of what we've been looking for. Are the tightening races. I definitely think we're going to be seeing a lot of those. Over here, super close in Wisconsin. I don't think Trump has enough of a lead to withstand the flip at the end, if there is one. Michigan is very close. Pennsylvania, Harris is already cutting that lead. She was down a lot more than the 100,000, and at this point she's down less than 100,000. So Pennsylvania is flipping back towards Harris. 65% of the vote in. Philly County, 60% of the vote in. We've got Allegheny, 86% of the vote in. We got Erie, 32% of the vote in. Lackawanna. We've got all these. Pennsylvania, huge swing state. Starting to swing towards Harris again. This is a very close election. I've said it a lot, but this election is extremely close right now. It is extremely close. And it might sound like 100,000 votes. That's quite a lot of votes, and I would agree. It is a lot of votes, but it's not as many votes as you might think. Especially when a candidate starts making up ground, it's not nearly as many votes as you might think. We saw it happen in 2020. We're going to see if it happens again here in 2024. But either way, these races are very, very close. Check out the Senate races real quick. See if anything has changed in the Senate races at all. I'm assuming nothing really has changed in the Senate races. Yeah, as you can see, well, they've flipped just slightly. They flipped to red. In Minnesota, it's still so early that it's very hard to tell. Kari Lake's getting beaten just badly in Arizona, and no other way to put it. The House, Republicans currently doing pretty well in the House. Looks like over here, we've got Summer Lee. We've got Janelle Stetson. Now, which one of these should have, Mackenzie and Wild. Super close. We've got the same over in Michigan. So, not only is the presidential race extremely close, but also the House and also the Senate. Just a bunch of close races everywhere. Literally everywhere. Every race is close. Definitely close enough that it could flip one way or the other. Trump currently holds a 2-point lead over there in Pennsylvania. I have a feeling that's going to flip. I think my prediction is I think it will flip towards Kamala Harris, but I can't be sure. It doesn't look like it right now. Over here, we've got 50% of the vote in over in Arizona. The West Coast will soon be counting up their ballots as well. That will be in about 5 minutes. So this is just all around about the closest race you could get, which makes sense. Up in the Electoral College, it doesn't look like it's close. Donald Trump at 210, Kamala Harris at 113. It just doesn't look close over there, but when all is said and done, I think it's going to end up being a lot closer than one might currently think. The Republicans in the House doing pretty well. I would say if you're a Republican, You probably are pretty happy with how you're doing in the House. Might be an indication of kind of the swing of the country right now. It could very well be an indication of how things are kind of swinging. But again, these results are not closed, and until every single vote is cast, we cannot be sure who's going to win. In Maine, see Kamala Harris with a lead in Maine, but again, Maine is just barely even counting their votes. They've got 16% reporting. They've been for quite a while now. They've been counting, so I'm not sure when they're actually going to start counting for real. Wisconsin's close. Michigan's close. I don't think Wisconsin is close enough for Trump. If the trend continues, I don't think it's close enough for Trump to be confident over there. Prediction on a winner, no. If you asked me earlier, I would have said I would predict Donald Trump. Right now, I think it's impossible to know. Just because of the trend that I am seeing. The trend I'm seeing is that the later ballots seem to be more blue. Here in North Carolina, this used to be a 6-point lead for Donald Trump over here. It no longer is. Durham County, Harris won by a landslide. And if we check over here to see how much Joe Biden won Durham County by in 2020, Durham, he won by 62%. Harris wins Durham by a grand total of 62% as well. Basically the exact same. North Carolina was very, very close in 2020, actually. But yeah, this is getting close to done. PA, Wisconsin, Michigan. That's all Harris needs to win. Trump would need to hold on in Georgia and North Carolina. Then he would need to take Pennsylvania as well. And I believe that would take him... I believe they'll take him over the top. Or... I think it would. Yeah, let's see. It would be 16, 19. That would be... It wouldn't take him over the top. He would also... Once he wins Idaho and Alaska, however, those 7 electoral college votes. 7... I don't think it would quite get him there. 7, it would be 217. This would be 217. Then be... Gosh. America's Choice 2020. Gonna go back. But yeah. So once Idaho and Alaska go to Donald Trump, that'll give him another 7 electoral college votes, so he'll be at 217. You can see right here, popular vote. Trump's currently got the lead in the popular vote pretty significantly. That's because California has not yet been counted. Popular vote, I think, will end up being very close. Harris has the lead now by 1.6% in Virginia, 74% in. I don't expect that to be all that close by the time all is said and done. Again, PA is about where I expected it to be. Michigan, Wisconsin, I actually thought Trump would have more of a lead in Wisconsin by now, but he doesn't. And then Georgia and North Carolina, not too surprising. Arizona, also incredibly close. So, path to victory for Donald Trump. So, all he would have to do, if I go to the interactive map. So, let's say that goes... This would go red, let's say. And let's even take out this. Let's take out Arizona as well. Let's say all this holds. We'll take out Michigan and we'll take out Wisconsin. So if he has this right here, because of these two states, all he would need would be Pennsylvania, and he'd have 270. So Pennsylvania could very well decide the election. Pennsylvania could very well decide the election. And we have other political lives. Thank you. And we have California called for Kamala Harris, so it's now 214 to 179. Look, the other political lives are going to be biased, and although I do have someone that I want to win, I'm not going to be biased about it. Okay? There's no need for bias about it. I'm not going to be biased about it. I just don't need to be. We're reporting the news, you know? We're reporting what's really going on. We don't need to be saying, oh, you should be worried about this, or you shouldn't be worried about this. Don't need that. So the Senate, let's take a look at the Senate race. Very close over in Pennsylvania. I have a feeling Casey's going to take that. Very early in Michigan, so I don't know if I can really call. Wisconsin, I do think this is going to end up as Democrat as well. Virginia, that will end up with a Democrat. And I'm pretty sure Arizona will as well. It looks like all red is really running away from this over here in the Texas Senate race. But back to presidential. But back to presidential. We've got 90% in here. We've got 86% in here. These numbers have not moved in a while. Maine is barely counting votes. They don't really like counting votes over in Maine. Don't know why. But again, Pennsylvania, this is really probably going to be the deciding vote. It is probably going to be the deciding vote. Trump currently leads by 3 percentage points in Pennsylvania. There is 69% in. Kamala Harris would have to beat him by 6% in the ballots left to be counted to catch up and take the lead. And I could absolutely see that happening. Just, by the way, the voting is trending tonight. Now, I don't know if we're currently going to be seeing any more results from most of these places. Oregon will likely go for Kamala Harris. I would be surprised if it did not. Same with New Mexico. Nevada's going to be interesting. They should be updating their stuff pretty soon. You did a bunch of research to decide who you'd be rooting for. So Iowa was called. Iowa should be called. Iowa was never going to be close. There was an odd poll from Iowa, but it just wasn't going to be close. What we're seeing right now is that they're just not counting a lot of the vote. So if I go over here, you expect Pennsylvania to be very important. Pennsylvania is going to be very important. It will probably be the deciding factor. I couldn't say for certain. I don't know how Michigan's going to go. Over here, since we're in the middle part of the vote, I expected Trump to be up by more in Wisconsin. This, to me, makes me think that it's very possible that Kamala Harris will end up winning Wisconsin. I'm not sure. That, to me, is what it looks like. Minnesota has 11% of the votes in. Good for them. Good job, Minnesota. You finally started doing something. But yeah, we should be expecting results from Nevada pretty soon. They are very slow, however. This is really what we're looking at. It's all red right now. Will it stay red? That's the question. Will all of this stay red? And another question is, when will each state stop their count for the night? Nevada needs a Red Bull or something. When will each state stop their count for the night? I think is my question. Ohio, we see it was not an all that close race. Illinois, not all that close. I do want to see what were the Illinois polls. I'm comparing the polls. Polls at Virginia, 6 points for Harris. Harris only has it by about 2. That will probably change. It will probably, I think, end closer to 4 or 5. Illinois, what did they have? I don't know if they did a poll in Illinois. Yeah, it doesn't look like they did a poll in Illinois. Yeah, no Illinois poll. So by state. So this would be under I. Yeah. No Illinois poll. Interesting. Very interesting. Donald Trump trying to open up a lead over there in Pennsylvania right now. But yeah, I don't know when they'll all stop counting. Now, apparently Arizona is expected to take a long time to count every vote. We might not know who the president is after tonight. This is interesting. Harris still trying to close that gap in North Carolina. She's got it down to 2.8 from about 6. Votes currently Wake County. We've got 85% in. Durham County, we got 99% in. Most of these counties, we've got most of the votes in right now. Over here in Greensboro, we don't have them. But most of these counties, we have most of the votes from these counties so far. It looks like right here is going to decide. So it looks like Guilford County. It looks like Wake County and maybe Forsyth. Yeah, so I mean, for basically every single state, the city parts are Democrat and the country parts are Republican. Basically every single state. So this is Trump trying to open up that lead that we've seen all night in Pennsylvania. He's got that almost 4% lead. This is what he's been trying to do all night. Open up this lead right here. Philly County, we've still got 67% to count. As you can see, though, these counties, most of the small counties have already counted all their ballots. Erie County has counted 50% of their ballots. Allegheny, 89%. Lehigh, 83%. Bucks County, only 47%. Philly County, 65%. Delaware County, 39%. This is where the votes are going to come in for Harris late. I think the only question is, will those votes actually be enough to carry Harris to victory? Or will Trump hang on by likely a very slim margin and win the presidency? The House, as you can see, we got the House results as well. Lot has been called over here. We've got a few key states, a few key races as well. Fitzpatrick right here, still weighing over there. Got McKenzie beating Wild. And then in Michigan, none of these races are particularly close. And in the Senate, very slight lead for Eric Hovde over Tammy Baldwin. Very slight lead for Mike Rogers. Very slight lead for Dave McCormick. And Arizona, bigger lead for Gallego. Still not a very big one. All these races are close. And none of them are closer than the current presidential race. I won't be saying who I voted for. I just don't feel the need to say who I voted for. It's not what the stream's about, you know? The stream is just coverage of the race. I don't need to make it biased, you know? It looks like Trump's going to hold on in North Carolina. And likely in Georgia as well. At this point, they both count 88%. So I think he'll probably hold on in these two states. PA is a different story. I'm not sure if he's going to hold on there. And then, of course, Michigan, of course. The super close race currently in Wisconsin. Arizona just stopped counting at a certain point. New Mexico probably goes Harris. Oregon probably goes Harris. So this number right here is going to tighten up as the night goes on. This will probably soon be called. Associated Press will probably soon call this race. It is very close, but Harris has totally flipped this state, as was expected. No one expected Trump to win Virginia. But it just looks like Arizona kind of has stopped counting. I'm not really sure why. Trump's up by about 3.5% in Pennsylvania right now. About 4%, a little over 4% in Michigan, and 3% over in Wisconsin. But that's not surprising to me. Again, it's not very surprising to me. 2% over in both. He's up by about 2.7 North Carolina, right around 3 in Georgia. And we just aren't getting a lot of ballots counted right now. Nevada is just not counting. I don't know how to say this. Nevada's not counting. They're just not counting votes. I remember 2020, the night of 2020. When the states flipped. This is what I'm looking for. I want to see when they flipped and then compare them. I want to see when they flipped, because Biden won relatively big, or not relatively big, but he won pretty soundly, I would say. Now this is interesting. Harris leading in Nebraska District 1. She's probably not going to end up winning that, but is interesting that she's currently in the lead. I mean, West Virginia's not really close, but no one expected it to be close. Missouri, pretty sound win. Kansas, pretty sound win. Iowa, pretty sound win. Utah, as you can see, pretty sound win. 0 votes counted. Colorado, pretty sound win. Minnesota, 14% in. Trump's currently winning. That's going to end up flipping. Virginia already flipped. Virginia will go for Harris tonight. We're just not seeing a lot of votes being counted right now. Emptiness machine has been stuck in your head all day. Yeah, so what I'm interested in seeing is when the states flipped. Because they flipped overnight. You went to sleep with Trump leading and woke up to Biden leading. Now this right here, this race, Trump's up by about 200,000 right now. 180. Philly County's got a lot to count. Lancaster does not. York does. But in most of these red counties, the votes have almost all been counted. Basically all of them. And I do want to see right here. Just quickly right here. Go to Pennsylvania. I want to see what Lackawanna. looked like. Lackawanna County, he carried by 8%. As you can see, Trump definitely got that margin down to about 2.7. So that would be a good sign for Trump. That's an extra about, honestly, it's not really an extra anything. It's maybe an extra 3,000 votes, as you can see right there. Right about 3,000 votes extra for Trump. Currently 77 to 21 over there, so that's 50 points. 50. And as you can see, Biden won a lot more than Harris is currently winning in Philly County, but we've got a lot to count. A lot to count. As you can see, Trump got 132,000 votes. He's already got 112. So I do think he's going to end up with more votes in Philly County than he did last election. Half the votes counted in Erie County. All of it's so close. All of it's so close. But we could see the flip. I think that's probably what Democrats are counting on, is the flip. 90% in Georgia. We are seeing Harris very slowly making up ground. 90% in. She need to beat Trump by about 24 points. So it would need to be somewhere around 60, like 62-38, something like that, in the remaining votes. And which votes are yet to be counted? Chatham County, some in Richmond, DeKalb, still in Gwinnett, Cobb, Bibb County. Most of the cities. That's why she's gaining so much ground. Georgia's so close. Georgia's actually gotten close. It's 130,000 votes. Same over in North Carolina. It's actually, I believe, closer over in Georgia right now. 130 here. 136 here. We've got 137 there. I will be refreshing this over here, see if anything has changed. Kamala Harris already starting to make up ground in Pennsylvania. Michigan, close. Wisconsin, very close. These two are also super close. Nevada, still not counting. We're not surprised about it. Minnesota. It's not close right now. But we've got 14% in. That's barely anything. I want to see in Georgia. In Georgia, how close was this? DeKalb, what are we looking for? We're looking for maybe Savannah. We're looking for over here, 49 to 30 in that. I'm going to look at Georgia for now. Georgia, extremely interesting state to watch right now. County I want to look at is right here, Muskogee County. 49 to 30, and over here we've got 49 to 30 as well, but more votes to be counted. People are just voting more than they did in 2020. Right now, California, I'd be surprised if they're counting any votes in California right now. They probably just, oh no, okay, so they're counting votes in California right now. 3% in right now. But yeah, so Donald Trump up to 230. They just called North Carolina for Donald Trump. Just called it. So they'll give North Carolina to Donald Trump. He moves up to 230. Interesting if they called North Carolina before they called Georgia. I am a little bit surprised about that. But they know what they're doing. Associated Press has called North Carolina for Donald Trump. So that brings him up to 230. He's up by 134,000 votes right now. They have not done the same for Georgia, which surprises me, I guess. He won by 70,000 votes in 2020. I'm assuming the margin will be very similar in North Carolina in 2024 here. PA, about 170 right now. Wisconsin's very close. All of these are super close. Oregon will go for Kamala Harris. Arizona's still not counting any more ballots. North Carolina is interesting to me. I find it interesting if they called North Carolina, I guess. I would think that they would have waited to call North Carolina, but I suppose they kind of found they had what they needed. So you can see NBC has not yet called North Carolina, but yet other people or other stations like Associated Press has called North Carolina. Georgia not yet called. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure why one was called and one was not. I'm not sure why one was called and one was not called. It might be because Wake County's got 93% in. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Unless Guilford County shows up heavily for Kamala Harris, that would be a pretty, yeah. As you can see right here, most of these areas, we just got a little bit more to go over there. But North Carolina gets called. Georgia's does not get called. And PA getting closer, I believe. Just another, it's super close. All of this right here, but that I would say is a good omen for Trump. In Pennsylvania, it's just too close to call right now. Very close over here, Pennsylvania. Harris slowly starting to close that lead. I think she'll end up winning Pennsylvania by a little bit. Michigan, Wisconsin. But yeah, this race currently, I think if you're Donald Trump right now, you're probably feeling pretty good about where this race is. But at the same time, you still got Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, which is where Harris is trying to win this. This is the Rust Belt over here, formerly known as the Blue Wall. Blue Wall fell in 2016, went back in 2020. And Oregon's been called for Kamala Harris. Arizona stopped counting. Nevada has not counted. But until we get an update on any of this, which I'll refresh. I'll go over here and refresh. We got to see if they've got anything new. MSNBC has not yet called it. I'm going to go Fox News, see if they have called it. So these three states, if Harris wins these three states, she wins the election. Since she's probably going to carry District 2. Race still somewhat tight in Georgia. I expect them to call Georgia soon. This is very tight. Just very tight right now. Still about... It's interesting. I think there's probably about 600,000 votes yet to count in North Carolina, which is why I'm wondering why they called it so early. 600,000 votes. Admittedly, 600,000 votes, Kamala Harris would have to win a lot of them. Like, a lot of them. She'd have to make up 135. So 600,000, she'd have to win about 300, probably about 400,000 votes. 350-ish. 340, something like that. So yeah, it would be a right around there. Pennsylvania, still pretty close. Michigan, Trump's opening up a little bit of a lead in Michigan. Wisconsin's still very close. If we see that blue flip again, then PA, Michigan, Wisconsin could easily go for Harris, but that's basically the hope for Kamala Harris, is these three states right here. And I'm not sure if we're going to see a winner tonight. Like, I'm not sure we're going to end up seeing a winner tonight. This just... I could see maybe tomorrow morning we see perhaps. The Senate is getting very close. I've been paying so much attention to the presidential election. Missed out on the Senate. Senate, very close. Over here, Cruz is still crushing all red. They have not called it yet, and I wonder why. So, Osborne and Fisher, very close. Over here, super close between McCormick and Casey. Rogers and Slotkin. Baldwin and Hofty. Just all of that super close. They did just call a race. Just called a race in the Senate. Let's take a look. Which race was just called in the Senate? It might have been Ohio. It's the Ohio race. They have called it for Bernie Moreno. So that's 49 the Senate. And once they call it for Cruz, that'll bring them up to 50 in the Senate, which means that in all likelihood Republicans will carry the Senate. The House, however, will be probably a lot closer. I'm not sure how most of these races are going to turn out. I'm going to go back to the presidential election. Not a lot of movement in the numbers. Not a lot of movement. What I'm seeing right now is I think Wisconsin probably is going to end blue. That's what I'm seeing right now. But I don't know about the others. I don't know about the others yet. Michigan, Donald Trump up by about 100,000 votes with 34% in. So they're going to probably have the little graphic right here, but I'm not sure. Gonna have to vote next election. I mean, civic duty and all that. See if they have called it. Still 214. They have still not called North Carolina. By the time it hits maybe midnight. By the time it hits, yeah, around midnight, I think we'll have a much better idea over there. We got 30 minutes until midnight. Minnesota obviously has flipped blue. That'll bring Kamala Harris up to 197 electoral college votes. Trump at this point is just looking for Alaska, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. He wins if he carries those 3 states. He doesn't need anything else. He just needs Alaska, Georgia, and Pennsylvania. And he'll get exactly 270. Over here, kind of unsurprising results everywhere in the governor. Pennsylvania, something we saw. Let's see, Pennsylvania. Really quick. Pennsylvania, Biden ended up winning it 3.4 million to 3.3 million. We're not really close to that yet. We've still got a long ways to go. Michigan, pretty close. Wisconsin, super close. No movement out of North Carolina. No movement out of Georgia. South Carolina is not close. Georgia is still not, Arizona still not counting. Yeah, we got Pennsylvania right here. 77%. I'm wondering is Bucks County is super close. Now, that I find interesting because Bucks County, for Biden, he won it by 4%. She's going to need Bucks County by a lot. Nevada's going to be the reason it'll take forever. So if they call enough, so let's say Trump takes PA and Georgia, then they'll just probably call the race as soon as he takes Alaska. And that'd be 270. They'd call the race for him. And they wouldn't need to worry about Nevada. Let's say Kamala Harris wins PA, Michigan, Wisconsin, holds on to Virginia. They'd call the race, 270 for Harris. That would be it. They wouldn't need to worry about Nevada. Nevada's probably not going to be a big player in this. Delaware County, 21%, the 21 points there. Biden won it by 26 points. So Harris has got a lot of ground to make up. Do you say America is doomed as a person you didn't vote for wins? No, probably not. Still only about 50% in Erie County. That's probably going to decide a lot of things as well. 192, a state was just called for Kamala Harris. It is New Mexico. State of the race, super close. 2 races to look out for right here, of course. Donald Trump holding on to that nearly 200,000 vote lead in Pennsylvania. When did it flip? It was Pennsylvania. Gosh. Pennsylvania flips overnight. When did it flip? I can't. They don't show it. It's really unfortunate they don't show it. I want to know, like, what's the timeline we're looking at, you know? So this, North Carolina, we just got more votes in. Trump's leading by about 130. Kamala Harris would have to carry by about 21 points. Probably won't happen. I wouldn't call it impossible. I would call it very improbable, though. And over here, like, Trump's up by 2.6 over there. In Georgia, let's take a look. Anything changed in Georgia? Nothing's changed in Georgia. Just have to carry by 27 points. Let's take a look in PA. They should have that metric up by now. Harris would have to carry by about 13 points. So time's running out for Kamala Harris if she wants to win the presidency. But at the same time, the places that have already counted all their votes are basically all red places. Basically all red. See, 90%, 98%, stuff like that. Places that have not: Philly County, Delaware County, Montgomery, Bucks, and Chester. And even Lehigh. Small portion of Allegheny and Erie. All those are blue. So we have to see how that goes. Really have to see how that goes. Michigan's close. Wisconsin is closer. Minnesota, they'll call soon. Don't know when they're going to do Arizona. I don't know if we're going to see the winner tonight, but Harris leading by 3 points now in Virginia. I would say entirely unsurprising. Until we really see more. Until we really see more of what's going on. I'm not sure. I just don't know. So you can see Pennsylvania, about 200,000 votes right now. Right around 200,000 votes. It's right around there. I don't know how many more votes are going to be counted tonight. Right here, Kamala Harris got to make up 140,000 votes, which is probably why they called this. 2.8% lead over here. It's just, this is all close. I would say right now, I would say if you're Donald Trump, you're probably feeling pretty good. Want lower prices? Yeah. So I would say right now, if you're Donald Trump, you're probably feeling pretty good. But you also remember what happened with Joe Biden. So I'm not sure. I don't know. This race is currently too close to call. The Senate tonight, you got 10 uncalled races. Looks like Senate tonight. Let's take a look at the Senate. 10 uncalled races. I'm surprised they've not called this yet. How have they not called Ted Cruz? I mean, this isn't even close. He's winning by 1,000,000 votes. PA, it's much closer. Michigan, super close. Wisconsin, even closer. Over here, we it's just not very close. Fisher and Osborne is extremely close. We've got 65% reporting. So overall, it's just everything's close. Everything's close. Presidential races are close. Senate races, for the most part, are close. Not all of them. Some of them are just really not close. Over here, we've got 2.6. We've got 2.8. Senate, they just called a race, and it is Ted Cruz. So there you go. Senate, Republicans have at least half in the Senate. Minnesota will probably be called for Kamala Harris pretty soon, if I had to guess. Donald Trump takes a bigger lead in Pennsylvania. I would say he should be celebrating that. Over here, Michigan, Wisconsin. I don't really know how much more we're going to see in the coming hours, but what I do want to look at is places like Erie County in PA. In PA, Donald Trump's winning by 200,000 votes. It's getting hard for Kamala Harris to even come back here. Pennsylvania. Erie County, super close right now. 75% of the vote in. 71% in over here. It looks like we got 71% in here. 68%. 85%. 93%. Unless something changes and there's like a big flip towards blue, it's probably Donald Trump will probably win. Like right here, you see the way he's kind of carrying Pennsylvania right now. He's kind of just carrying Pennsylvania right now. So again, unless there's a big blue wave coming, he probably will carry Pennsylvania. %81 of the votes in. That's where you'd expect it to start swinging towards Harris. If that doesn't happen, that doesn't happen. But I would say I would expect it to start swinging towards Harris here. Hello, Winky. But right now, Donald Trump looks he looks poised to win the presidency right now. I'm not sure, but like right now, 3.4, 3.3. We're probably going to be looking at an actually larger percentage than that. We got 81% of the vote in. We've already got 5.6 million. 5.6 million is 80%. That's gosh. 5.6. Probably going to be expecting somewhere. I won't say who I voted for because I don't want it to be biased at all. And right now, Trump's holding on. We've got these 3 states. Virginia was just called for Kamala Harris. I'm surprised it wasn't called sooner. I'll be honest. Right here, this probably goes to Harris. This probably holds on as well. So what Harris is looking for are these 3 states. That's what Kamala Harris is currently looking for. But yeah, so if we did 80% of 5.64. $4.5. Or sorry, it would actually be this 6.7, 6.8. So it'd be 6.8 divided by 80. 6.8 divided by 0.8 would be 8.5. would be 8.5. Interesting. So we're looking to have a much bigger voter turnout then. It would be 5 point... Yeah, I'm being dumb. 5.6, okay. 5.6 divided by 0.8. So 7. We'd be looking at about 7 million voters. So that's what we're looking at. It's going to be about 7 million voters right here. Erie County slightly favors Harris. 75% in. We got a bunch in Philadelphia County, Delaware County. This is really where most of the ballots are being counted right now, are in these blue counties. So Pennsylvania could flip, but it also might not. Wisconsin opening up a bit of a lead. So yeah, we're looking probably at about 7 million votes here. So we probably have 1.4 million votes to go. Kamala Harris has to take about right around that 800,000, 850,000 votes. If she wants to win Pennsylvania. Which by no... It's not like a crazy feat to say that she would do that, but at the same time, it's very hard to predict it. Got Virginia called, we got this, we got that. Georgia has still not been called. I don't know why Georgia has not been called. I don't know... Is from the decision team. Yeah, okay. So what are we looking at? Still in DeKalb County and Fulton County. I guess that's why. Is because it's all near the cities. I think that's what we're looking at, is that it's just all near the cities right now in Georgia. House is now 170 to 123. That's what we're looking at over here. This has it 230 to 205. Minnesota goes blue. Arizona is not reporting. Maine, very close. New Hampshire, kind of close. I would say kind of close. There's been a bit of a red wave here. Like Pennsylvania, I was expecting the race to be a bit tighter by now, maybe 2.9 to 2.8. This is a bit interesting, I would say. Definitely skewed towards Donald Trump here. Definitely in his favor, because if it continues like at that rate, he would certainly win the presidency. Over here, we still have the Senate races, which have not been called. All these super close, but I think Republicans will hold the Senate. Yeah, it looks like Republicans will very likely hold the Senate. What I want to look at as well is Wisconsin. Wisconsin over here. Super close in Wisconsin. It's about 80,000 votes currently. And that flipped overnight in 2020. So we've got Dane County. We've got Milwaukee County is probably going to be a big factor here, I'd say. Milwaukee County. Let's take a look over here in Wisconsin. So I haven't been focusing on Wisconsin too much because without Pennsylvania, Wisconsin does not matter. But let's say Madison County, 74% to 23%. That's 251 to 80. And Madison County was 260 to 78. So it's slightly more towards Trump there. And this one, 69 to 29. 317 to 134. Currently, it's not 69 to 29. It's 66 to 31. Okay, good night. But yeah, it's like right around that ratio, and we still have more votes to count though. And then Michigan, popular vote, as you can see, Donald Trump still has the popular vote by about 4 million. And then I want to check Michigan as well. How am I still going? Because the election's still going. Michigan as well. Wayne County was about 68 to 30. It was 597 to 264. So I'm going to check Wayne County. First, I'm looking over here. Donald Trump's still kind of the same carrying job that we've been seeing all day over there. When do you think it'll end? I think we'll have an idea of who will win, but I might be going for a very long time here. All right, so we're looking at Wayne County. Wayne County so far, 62 to 36. That's not what Kamala Harris would want. Still got a lot of ballots to count, though. Another one is Ingham County. We've also got Oakland and Washtenaw. We've also got Kent County, but Washtenaw County, again, it's not the same numbers that we were seeing for Biden. Biden was winning by a much larger amount. So I would say right now for Donald Trump is probably pretty confident. Okay, good night. Good night, both of you. I would say he's probably pretty confident right now. But yeah, I think at this point Harris really only has one shot here, and it's the original one. It is PA, Michigan, Wisconsin, and then this one vote right here, which he will probably win. Not by a huge margin, but probably will win. Senate's currently 50 to 41. We've got, checking the polls here. Michigan was 1.8. I would think that would skew towards Harris, but I don't know. 1.3. Obviously, it's been more. It's definitely been more than 1.3. Got right here 120,000 votes in Georgia are the only thing separating the two of these. Got 120,000 votes. Super close. Georgia could come down to the wire. Georgia's super close right here. 119,000 votes. 2.3% lead here. She needs to win the remaining votes by about 31%. But look at where they are. 97% reporting. 64% reporting. It is a city. 84% reporting. And then over here, 88, 91, 94. This one, 89, 99, 95. Most of the reporting is only 80. Will be coming from cities, and that's why they haven't called it. Who am I after in this election? I'm not telling anyone who I voted for. I don't want this to be biased in any way. Yeah, right now, So they have not called Georgia yet, and that's because most of the ballots will be in cities, which means there is a very small chance that Harris will find a way to come back in Georgia. It looks like they called North Carolina because probably of where the ballots are. So they called this. As you can see, Donald Trump is ahead in North Carolina by less at this point than he is in Georgia, but still a fair margin, I would say. He's up by 2.8%. Currently, Minnesota, this will likely be called somewhat soon for Harris. Pennsylvania, Trump still got a lead. Michigan, Trump still got a lead. Wisconsin, Trump still got a lead. It's by about 98,000 voters. And this is in 2020. Biden won this by a slim margin of 20,000. So Harris has got to make about 100,000, or right around 100,000 if she was going to, or 120,000 if she was going to win it by the same margin as Biden. You see right here as well, 84% in this district. Now I want to look at Nebraska. Take a look. So Nebraska, what I want to look at is Omaha. 54-43. Over here, 53-45. So Trump's made up a bit of ground there. I don't think it'll flip. But he definitely has made up ground there. And then Kamala Harris wins Virginia. We saw that coming. For here, it's right about 150,000. Georgia's getting very close. Georgia's got 7% more to count. Which, if I'm not mistaken, is should be right around what? About, let me calculate this real quick. Got 5.08 divided by 0.93. So like around about 400,000 votes. About 400,000 votes to count there. Trump still got a lead in Pennsylvania. Over here. Harris is going to be slowly closing these margins as the nights go on. That's my prediction, at least. I could be wrong, but that seems to have been the trend. It did not carry in North Carolina. It certainly wasn't enough for her to win. North Carolina got called. But I think that's really what we're looking at right now. Right here they have it 230 to 185. Which over here it's because they already called. What do they call over here? They have 185? Was it they said? Was it 185? I don't know. Can't remember anymore. Okay. 185, what have they not called yet? They did not call New Mexico, and they did not call New Jersey. New Jersey, Kamala Harris is carrying by about 5 points. That's another one. I'll take a look. New Jersey. Let's take a look over here. Biden carried Jersey by 16. Harris is carrying it by 5. That's just like, I would say, if you're Kamala Harris, that's a bad sign for you. That these states that should be solid blue are voting against you. Or are not voting against you, but they're not showing up in the way you might expect. I think there are also probably other factors here For sure, there are other factors here. But I think that's an overall bad sign if you're Kamala Harris. If you see right here, poll-wise, in New Jersey, 16 points up. Most of these people, I guess, just did not show up to vote. Nevada is still not counting. Don't know why. They have called something for Kamala Harris. What have they called here? What did they call? Hawaii for Kamala Harris. Okay, there you go. It's midnight now. 2:30 to 2:09. 2:30 to 2:09. This is really what it all comes down to. Right here. Donald Trump opening up a lead in Pennsylvania. This is the type of lead that it's hard to come back from this lead. He's opening up a big lead in Pennsylvania. Hard to come back from that lead. I was expecting more of a blue kind of push towards the end. Kind of like we're seeing in Georgia. But currently not seeing it in PA. So I'm not sure what that'll mean for Kamala Harris. What I'll do is I'll take a look at the 2020 results for PA. As you can see, it was 3.4 to 3.3. So if Kamala Harris was going to win by the same margin, she would need about 700,000 votes in the same time Donald Trump got about 300,000. Million votes. Is it doable? It is. But is it also hard to do? It certainly is. So right here, as you can see, we got 100,000 votes in Wisconsin, 130 in Michigan. It reminds me a little bit, I hate to say it, reminds me a little bit of the 2016 election. 2016 presidential election right here. 304 to 227. It's right here. So what you'd be expecting to see would be Nevada and New Hampshire and Minnesota. Right here, it would be 4, 6, 10. It would put her at 229. That's what it reminds me a little bit of. It might be 223 if she can't win Nevada. But these 3 states right here, she's just having a lot of trouble with. This is the blue wall. This is her path to victory right now. I won't say only path to victory, but certainly the most realistic path to victory. Popular vote. Not even winning the popular vote. Something the Democrats have carried since 2004, I believe. So we could see tonight this race being called for Donald Trump unless we see a drastic change in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, perhaps Georgia. We have been seeing a bit of a change in Georgia. It's a 2.3% lead there for Trump. Over here in North Carolina, it's just been more votes this year. There's just been more votes, it looks like. Over here, there was that one poll in Iowa that had shown, for some reason, one poll in Iowa had shown Kamala Harris was up by 3 points. It did not happen. Same goes for Kansas, was close for a little while. Missouri was close for a little while. Nebraska, Harris will take that, which will put her at 210. Once they call it, that'll be 220. It would be 224. Then at that point, 224, she would only need 234, 253. And then these two would be called. 255, and then this would put her at 270. Oh, I'm so sorry. My mic was muted. So, my mic was muted, but quick update. Very quick update. Pennsylvania. Sorry, this is not updated, but Pennsylvania has had a bit of a Democratic swing. Bit of a swing right here. PA over here. Trump was leading by about 250. Now 175. Super close. Go over here. This is just super close right here. Especially now, Georgia votes have not moved. Probably going to see another Democratic swing over in Wisconsin. And what I'm going to look at over here is just the counties. What I want to look at is the counties. Here. Oh, they're not showing counties. They should be showing counties, but here. Here we go. It'll show up right there. Yep, popular vote's interesting. AP not working very well right now. But anyway, what I want to look at is the counties, see which counties have yet to vote. It's a very big tell on what we might see next. If PA flips, which currently PA, it's right around that 175. It's slightly less, 171 right now. That's an extra 3,000 votes for Kamala Harris. 171 right now. A huge boost for Kamala Harris right here. She's now down 3%, but that is exactly where Joe Biden was. Or very close to where Joe Biden was. So if we take a look at the House, let's say, House, looks like Republicans will probably carry the House. What I'm going to do is going to just copy that. I'm going to close this tab. going to reopen and close tab, and then I'll quickly put this in. So yeah, that's... They just called another Senate race. Which one was it? Senate race they called? Well, surely not that one. Which Senate race was called? Oh, was it in Nebraska? They called it Deb Fischer. Deb Fischer. Take it over Dan Osborne. Interesting. But yeah, Associated Press. 230 to 210. We're seeing that swing in PA right now. But oh, one electoral vote. That would be in Nebraska. That would be the district in Nebraska or a district in Maine. Now, interestingly enough, it's not even showing the map now, dude. This is just crazy the way that this has been buffering, but yeah. So this will be one electoral vote. This will be for Kamala Harris. Pennsylvania, getting close. Michigan, not so close yet, but 48% reporting. And then Wisconsin, neck and neck. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close that over there. And now I'm going to open Associated Press again. It is 230, 210. Have they called the district for Kamala Harris yet? They have called the district. There you go. They called that district right there for Kamala Harris. So this is what I was saying, that Donald Trump only needs Pennsylvania and Georgia right now. If he gets Pennsylvania and Georgia, that's what the map looks like. If that flips, suddenly Kamala Harris just needs to win Michigan and one of these two states, either Wisconsin, or if that ends up red, then she'd need to win Arizona. So that's what you'd be looking at right there. Let's take a look. This race is getting very tight. Right about 170,000 votes right now. Right around there. Pennsylvania might be prone to flip. It might be about to flip. I don't know. I would say until it's at, you know, until it's at like, 20,000, then it's really hard to say that it's going to flip. So yeah, right here, right around that line. Michigan as well, slowly closing the gap. Wisconsin's not really moving too much. But this is all very, very close. It's all super close. So California, 25 points. Let's take a look. She's holding by 23, right around there. Not showing the map, so we'll go NY Times. Election map. Going to go for the election map real quick. There we go. Right now, that's where the votes stand. Here's Pennsylvania currently. 87% of the vote reported. 87%. Currently, it is Trump at 2.8. They're estimating Trump 1.9. About 97,000 votes here. In Philly County to go. That's really where you're looking. Are places like that. 205 because they have not called New Mexico yet for some reason. Shift from 2020. We're seeing mostly it's a shift red. Mainly it's just a red shift everywhere. That's mainly where it is right now. All right. Good night. But yeah, it's just been a shift red. So here we are. When this loads, we'll take another look at it. Take another look at it when it loads. But what we're seeing right now is Trump has about 170,000 vote lead in Pennsylvania. In Georgia, it's about 120. In Michigan, it's about 180. And in Wisconsin, it's about 100. Arizona is very close, basically tied. Nevada has not started counting yet. New Hampshire, I'm surprised New Hampshire has not been called yet. New Hampshire will go to Kamala Harris. I could call that right now. I guess I understand why they haven't called it yet. Pennsylvania. Come on. This stupid thing. Should be working. This should be working. I'll leave it here for now, and I'm going to pull it up elsewhere. So I'm going to pull it up elsewhere. Take a look at what's happening. Because unless we see, like I said, a drastic shift towards Kamala Harris, it's going to be hard to recover. It's going to be hard to recover from the lead Trump has jumped out to. Now, I'm sure we all remember when Trump claimed victory in 2020, so we are going to be patient. And we're going to see what's happening before we start speculating about about anything. But right now, I mean, he's holding. Right now, he's holding pretty well. 86% reporting. So that's 14% left. Should have to cover 170,000 votes in 14% of the vote. Which, not that hard, to be perfectly honest. That's over 600,000 votes. It's probably close to like 700,000 votes, I would say. Somewhere right around there. AP election map. But if it holds, Donald Trump will be president. I'm 20 years old. The thing is, what I'm looking at, if this map would load, which it's just not loading. If this map would load, which I wish it would load, but it's just not loading. Either way, what I'm trying to see is like counties like this, right? Erie County, Allegheny, Philadelphia County, Bucks County, stuff like that. It's very close. 2.8% right now. 2.8% between these two. Right here. That went back somehow. Somehow that went back. But yeah, the AP, it's not working anymore. Right here, holding kind of close. Over here, again, it's right around 180. It's just really, I don't see anything like, don't see any major changes. Let's take a look at the Georgia election count. Let's take a look. Are they done counting for the night? Are they done counting for the night? That's what I'm trying to figure out. You know, maybe the Washington Post will have a map. So here's what we're looking at. Here's what we've been looking at for a while. Let's take a look at election 2024. Let's see, presidential results. AP's not loading, so got to turn to the Washington Post. Results by state. Here we go. Here we go. Georgia, PA. It's about 168 right now. 100 and, or not 168 actually. It's 166 between the two of them. 166,000 votes. Still got a lot of votes to count. Definitely too close to call. Minnesota will probably be called somewhat soon just because it's such a Democratic stronghold in recent years. Nevada, obviously. New Hampshire probably be called soon. Michigan, Trump still got a lead. Wisconsin, he's got a lead. These are the 3 states to watch right here. This will likely be called. Maine will probably be called. So if we go like this, we'll be able to see it a little bit better. Polls currently, I would say currently, I would definitely say that Trump's in a much better position at the moment. But with so many votes left to count, just impossible to say. Just impossible to say. Like right here, as you can see, Georgia has not been called. I do think it'll be red. 80% reporting over here. Haven't seen that blue swing in Wisconsin yet that I predicted. I thought we've been seeing a bit of a blue swing at the end of the count. Haven't seen it yet in Wisconsin. Arizona, 51%, so they're counting again. And Nevada, just no. Just nothing happening with Nevada. They're just not even counting. So Washington Post, probably just stay on the Washington Post for now. The type of blue swing I'd be talking about would be something where we already saw this tonight. It was about 70,000 votes for Kamala Harris and about 9,000 votes for Donald Trump that they counted. If we saw that right now, that would bring this within 100,000. You do that 3 times, Harris takes over. And as you can see right here, this race is not really tightening all that much. So right here, as you can see, race isn't really tightening that much. I expected the race to be a lot tighter, but that swing just wasn't as big as I originally expected it to be. the swing here, we still got about 170,000 votes. Philadelphia County hasn't carried it as much as she could have. Bucks County, they're not counting right now. Delaware County, Montgomery County, Chester County, Pittsburgh, we got Allegheny, Erie County. Now, Erie County almost always votes for the winner of the election, so Erie County's currently red, likely will end up red by a very slim margin. And it looks like right on track. Donald Trump is on track to win Pennsylvania. Votes left to count. Really, it's just the city. Currently, the cities are really where we're going to be seeing the votes counted at this point, at this time of night. Super close. But it currently looks like Donald Trump may just hang on to be elected 47th president. Just because Harris has not been able to overcome that that deficit that she takes in basically every state. Virginia was too close. Virginia, she's winning by about 4.8%. She was supposed to win it by about 6%. She still very well might. Georgia, they haven't been counting for a little while. Michigan, Wisconsin. It's these little things. When you see that vote count go up, it's just currently not enough for Kamala Harris. Votes, just waiting for the votes to be counted right here. All the swing states. All these swing states. Waiting for these swing states to be counted. And right there, once again, you see they're staying relatively even with the current ballots counted. It's right around 170. Right around that 170 mark, 170,000. And it might just stay that way. We did see Georgia tightened big time. Pennsylvania might just do the same. Pennsylvania might end up at like 50,000 at a certain point. And then really got to start asking the question of what's going on. Start trying to figure out if Harris is actually going to swing it back towards herself. But I mean, overall, we do not have a result quite yet.